Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Match Ball podcast. First of all, before we get into the order of business, a big thank you to every single one of you who tuned in to the last episode of the Match Ball podcast. It was a first time collaboration with Menace and the Monk. It was the first time ever that a video episode of the podcast was recorded and uploaded. And the numbers, whatever it has done on YouTube and on the other platforms as well, they have been simply mind blowing. I mean, we don't talk about the numbers a lot because this is genuinely something that we love to do, and that is the aim out of this. But when you see those numbers, it always gives, it's like a cherry on the cake. With that, today's episode is a bonus episode as I had promised on my socials. Unfortunately, today's episode of the podcast is an audio one, but it's a good one. It's with Hrishikesh Dabir, and he is one of the co founders of a website called The Devil's DNA. Now, as the name suggests, The Devils, so it's an all Manchester United website, but it's one that brings you tactical analysis. It gives you reviews, opinion articles discussing Manchester United and some of the world's most promising football wonder kids. And they do this because they have a love for doing in depth analysis of the beautiful game. And I'm very happy that Rishikesh agreed to come on the podcast with me. Stay tuned, and we will be right back. Welcome back to the Matchball podcast, and it's my pleasure to have Rishikesh with me, who is one of the co-founders of the website which I mentioned, the Devil's DNA, which you can check out in the description of the podcast episode. Hi Rishikesh, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Hi Rohan, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and we'll see.
Of course, we shall. And I mean, it's good to have a Manchester United fan who does not like the signing of Cristiano Ronaldo on the podcast, given how vocal you have been about not requiring him and signing him because he was going to your city rivals.
I think the timing and the way we signed him was a little bit frustrating for me personally because basically when we signed Varane before the Leeds game. We announced Varane at the Leeds game. And from the Leeds game till the deadline day, we had like 20 days buffer. So we should have prioritized more on signing an area that we required, like a overlapping right back or a defensive midfielder. But we didn't. We just sat back, and once Ronaldo was available, we just threw all the money that we had. I mean, the board said that there is no more money. We had to sell before we could buy a bed, and suddenly there was money just because Cristiano Ronaldo was available. There is nothing against him personally. I mean, he's a great signing. I think he'll score 20-25 goals easily. I mean, that's what you get with him. But I just I wasn't really happy with it, and
Yeah.
I think that's what caused Ole's downfall eventually. But it's not only him. Ole did make mistakes himself, but yeah, we'll talk about it. Sure.
Of course. Now you mentioned Ole. Well, I'll jump onto his successor. Now, Ralph Ragnick has been given the reins of the Manchester United chariot, and the only problem in the sense you've not seen much of him because the last two games have been postponed. I mean, this match week and this match day and the midweek match day, both of the games have been postponed. So, based on the limited footage of what you have seen of Manchester United under Ragnick, what do you think are some of the biggest changes or the more prominent noticeable changes of Ragnick as compared to Ole's Manchester United?
So basically, there is in terms of formation, I don't think there is much change. I think our squad doesn't allow you to change much formations because we don't have the midfield personnel to change the formations or the overlapping fullback personnel to change formations. But the formation, I think Ole was more towards a 4-2-3-1 type of a system. Ragnick is a 4-2-2 or a 4-4. But Ole, while we didn't have the ball, Ronaldo, as has been mentioned everywhere else, he doesn't really like to press, and he wasn't
Hmm.
really uh, the hard worker that Cavani is. So basically, when we replaced Ronaldo with Cavani, we replaced Cavani with Ronaldo. My bad. We had a void that the striker wasn't pressing the mids, the center defenders.
Right.
So basically, what happened is Ronaldo was at a right side or a left side of the striker, and Bruno joined him in the press, and we
Correct.
were pressing with a front four basically. But the press was just disoriented. It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't. How can I say? It wasn't structured, or it was just. It was really chaotic because Bruno was pressing, but no one followed Bruno.
Okay.
If Greenwood started the press, then Bruno was somewhere else. I mean, it wasn't
Okay.
organized at all, which left a lot of space in the midfield, which
Right.
gave teams like a free reign to just attack because Fred and McTominay they had to cover like three mids, their wingers, because our front four was just at the back line of the other team. So
Right.
that's the
Right.
main change. I mean, I'll just take the Crystal Palace game for example. That was the biggest change I saw in the Crystal Palace game, as how we were coordinated in pressing. Everyone was pressing. Everyone knew what they had to do. Everyone had a. We were just more organized in terms of pressing and our off the ball team structure.
Right.
On the ball, I think Ragnick is a bit more direct, but I think that would take time to engraved in our team because I mean it's just been like a week of training. I mean like 4 or 5 training sessions. Yeah. And in terms of formation, there are also changes. I mean, Rashford is now playing as a striker. He was a left winger previously. Bruno
Right.
is now
Right.
in the left wing or the left central attacking midfielder, if you want to call that. So that those are the biggest changes. So in terms of that, so what I think we'll see under Ragnick is Rashford being more direct, taking a lot of runs in behind the
Okay.
defenders instead of being the creator or just dropping deep from left wing and taking the ball. So that would be the biggest change I think. And another biggest change I think would be the emergence of Jaden Sancho because he
Yeah.
wasn't playing at all before Ragnick, and now I think Ragnick has mentioned him previously a lot. So I think
Right.
he's one of the favorite players of Ragnick. So
Yeah, and I saw the game versus Norwich, and I think Jaden Sancho was one of the standout players of that entire match. Given he had that creative spark that people wanted to see that like instant impact on his arrival, but was somehow subdued under Ole. But with Ragnick, I think if he's given the license to express his creativity in the attacking front, then probably he might turn out to be your best player, even better than a goal scoring Ronaldo. What do you think?
in terms of creative, I think Sancho is more of a creative winger than he's a pacey winger. If I'm being honest. So under Ragnick, yeah, he definitely has more space with the new team structure to flex his creative muscles. And I think we'll start to see the best of him. I really do. Because he's a very talented player, in my opinion. One of the best young players in the world. I think
Right,
I can't seem to think a lot young players better than him. Like maybe Haaland, Mbappe, and Bellingham, or some people like
right,
that. But
right, right,
Jaden is up there, in my opinion. And yeah, he will operate in the right wing half spaces, which is very
right,
flourished at Dortmund.
right, right,
I
right,
mean, Hakimi used to overlap and he used to cut inside, and that was the main area
right,
in which
right,
Sancho operated the best, and that would be the same here under the new formation. But it also depends on the right back we have because I don't think Wan Bissaka is like Hakimi. I mean, complete opposite. So Dallo basically he has hit a good run of form, so I think he'll continue there. But we, I think if he has a good overlapping right back, then it would help Sancho more. But even if he doesn't have it, I think he'll flourish under Ragnick more than he ever looked like flourishing under Ole.
right. Right. So if assume, let's say that in this 6 month tenure that Ragnick has been given, uh, Manchester United performs beyond expectations. I mean, beyond what you would have expected under Ragnick. Do you think that instead of going for the 2 year consultancy role as promised, United should and would give Ragnick an extended managerial role for the next season?
So what is if we are to map that he performs beyond expectations,
Okay, let's
what
say
should be the realistic
he
expectations in the
manages,
first place?
let's say UCL quarters, maybe UCL quarters,
Okay.
and a top four finish with relative ease. And I think one of those, as Roy Keane said, those trophies, FA Cup and League Cup, and those trophies.
League Cup we are out, so
Oh,
I don't
sorry,
think
not League Cup. Nah, then
he
only FA
can
Cup, right?
he can manage that. I think if Ragnick would only continue if there is no one better than him available in the market. I mean that's the main catch with him because if you look at his history, he focused more on the sporting role and the director of football role
Right,
more
right,
towards the end of his career because I think he himself has said that he feels exhausted by doing both the roles, so
right,
he just
right,
wants to focus on one. So he quit as the manager of Salzburg to take the director position at Leipzig
right,
and our the Red Bull group of football, and then he got Red Bull promoted, and then that was history basically.
right, right,
So I think it depends. I think it's totally his call. So depends on if the managers are available. I think the top two candidates widely mentioned are Pochettino and Eric Ten Hag, and I think
right,
both would be fairly attainable in the summer. But it depends. So if Ragnick does perform well beyond his expectations, and if we can't get one of those two, then I think I can see him continuing. But it's a long shot. I think Ragnick wants to more focus on the consultancy role rather than the managerial role.
right, right.
Because that was the thing that got him here in the first place. Because he wouldn't have just accepted a 6 month interim role.
Right, right, right. You mentioned about the two candidates. I just want to throw some light upon one of them. Do you really think Pochettino is a good catch for United, given what he is? I mean, I know PSG is a completely different ball game with the political power. I mean, the political plays and star-studded lineup and managing the egos and everything. But uh, what do you think? I mean, is Pochettino a uh, good coach for United? I mean, if you're only looking at his progress at Tottenham as a coach, do you think he's a good coach?
I do believe he's a good coach. I think he's a good technically astute manager. But in terms of, I think it's very tricky to judge Pochettino. As you mentioned, the politics at PSG and all the stuff happening there, it makes it very hard to judge a manager from PSG. Like you look at Tuchel,
Right,
so he was, I mean, his PSG side didn't really look like playing the free flowing football that Chelsea did last season or this season even. But
right,
he completely turned the fortunes of Chelsea when he came here. And I think Tuchel is a good coach. He's one of the best in Europe if you are considering the current run of form his team has had. So it's tricky to judge Pochettino in terms of PSG. Personally, I am not that impressed with him. I think we can do better than Pochettino, if I'm being honest. But I don't think he's a bad manager. But I think uh, if if we have other options than Pochettino, I think we should consider more at looking at them rather than just go all in on Pochettino if he's available. So we should, United should consider everything. Like it was with Jose Mourinho when Angola got fired. Jose
right,
Mourinho was available, and we didn't even consider any other
right,
managerial
right,
appointment at all. We just got it and
right,
signed Mourinho. So I don't think we should do that with Pochettino. I don't think he's that level of a big name, but
right.
if it won't be the worst thing in the world if he does. manages United in the future.
Yeah. Like you can look at his progress at Tottenham, which where he built a team virtually out of nothing and very limited money, and how he took them to the CL final. Granted that the CL final was him being a victim of his own success that led to him being sacked. I mean, the expectations from that
That
side were
was
too high after that season, so
Yeah, and
that's
that
why he
was the
was sacked.
worst Champions League final I've ever seen.
Thank God someone says that and does not say last season was a more sad Champions League final.
I didn't actually watch last season final. I had my vaccine, so I was sick that day.
Okay. Yeah, so okay, so coaches, yeah, so Ralph Ragnick will stay if you don't have another option available. Now, let's talk about now January is coming, and you have said that this with the arrival of Ronaldo, you still had those uh, flaws in your midfield and defense. I mean, more in midfield than defense. So, do you think that this United board will probably go for signing in January? Well, I mean, how optimistic are you of a actual signing happening in January, be it a loan or a permanent transfer?
I mean, to be honest, going into January, I'm never optimistic about any signing that United can make. I mean, Bruno was an exception, in my opinion, ever since
Cavani was
Alex.
not a Jan signing, right?
Sorry?
Cavani was not a Jan signing, right?
No, no, he was a free
Okay,
transfer
okay,
in the summer.
okay. My bad.
Bruno was an exception, I think. After Sir Alex Ferguson retired, I don't think we have had many January signings. I mean, just Andreas Pereira was so bad that we just had to add, basically.
You can't give
And
him the record of the only January signing who has to be called good.
I mean, he's been the best signing since Alex Ferguson retired. Look at the numbers, but uh, actually, United has just thrown a bit of surprises this season. To be honest, I didn't expect that we'd hired Ragnick. I didn't expect the Varane signing. I didn't expect that we'd actually get Sancho over the line
Sancho,
this year either. But I don't expect more than one signing. Even if we are signing someone, it would be at the max one, and we are linked to some of the names that Rangnick likes, like Amadou Haidara is the
right,
biggest
right. So
link,
basically, the boys
heavily linked
snapped up
player since.
at Red Bull. They are the ones who you are linked with, who he
Yeah,
might sign.
I mean, I've just read two players that we are heavily linked with. The one is Amadou Haidar and the other is Tyler Adams. So Tyler Adams can play right back and midfield. So he is like a temporary fix for say 6 months at
Right,
right back, and then he can move into the midfield or just continue playing at right back and we sign someone else in the midfield. But so I don't. I'm not that optimistic, but we do need a players. We need a defensive playmaker more than anything. We need a right back, an overlapping right back, and if we are to believe that Martial would be leaving and Cavani is poised to join Barcelona, then we
right,
need another striker at the club. But I don't
right,
think that happens in January. I think that happens in summer. I think in January we would be more focused on selling players than signing someone in. But
right,
you never know. I mean, with Ragnick, if the club is 100% married to the direction that Ragnick is taking us, then we may see a signing.
right, right. You think Marshall will leave in the summer? Like I read somewhere he has links to Newcastle, if I'm not wrong.
He is being linked to Everton. No, sorry. He's being linked to Juventus. He's being linked to Newcastle. He's being even linked to Barcelona, actually. Uh, I think Martial's time is up at United, if I'm
Yeah,
being honest.
yeah,
I just don't see him coming back up. I mean, we have like we have so it's like Greenwood, Sancho, Rashford, Ronaldo, Cavani, Bruno. If we are talking about the front four spaces, I believe Pogba would play in the front four. I
right,
believe Donny Van de Beek would also flourish in the front four more. We have Greenwood, we have Rashford, we have Ronaldo, and we have Ilanga coming through from the academy. So
right,
I don't think there is a place for Martial in the squad anymore.
right,
And
right.
he doesn't suit Rangnick's pressing style of football. And his agent has come out and said that he wants to leave in January or the summer. So
So
I
I
think,
don't think that United would bother keeping him, given they have so many
yeah,
options.
but yeah, I don't think Martial has a future over here
Yeah,
unless something miraculous happens in the next 6 months.
right, right. And you mentioned Pogba. Ragnick, in his initial press conferences, one of them, he said that if a player does not want to play for Man United, he would not force him or something. Was that indirectly linked to Pogba, or was it linked to anyone, or was it just a general statement into the void for the players to take notice?
I think it would be indirectly linked to Pogba, but it's also just a general statement that I mean I agree with him. You shouldn't convince anyone to stay at Manchester United. The name should be enough. But Paul Pogba is just he has been in and out. He just wants to stay, then he wants to leave, then he wants to stay. Maybe we should. Yeah, I hope for a time when he goes on a run of good 6 to 8 games. Then everyone says that he should stay here forever, and then if he has a one bad game, and then everyone says that he should leave, and it's just been too much drama regarding him.
Reactionary, basically. There's been a lot of reactions to Pogba and not. But I have heard from a few United fans that given the price you paid for him, he has not been worth the amount. What do you think on that particular statement?
If you look at the price and what he gave us, then yes, I don't think he has been worth. But at the same time, you should understand that he didn't exactly have the best of environments to flourish. Um, Mourinho, all the pressure was on him when he was under Mourinho, and he was left hung out to dry after like one or two bad games. Then I just think that world class players need other world class players around them to flourish more. If you are looking at if you really think about it, because Pogba has had to play with players who are still in their development phase, like Rashford, like Martial, Greenwood, even. Um, he didn't have a proper defensive midfielder behind him at all at any times. Maybe there was Matic, but that was only for one season, and I think that season he was one of our better players in the 17-18 season. I think if I'm remembering correctly. So yeah, he could have done more, but at the same time, I also understand that he also didn't have the best of environments to flourish. But what all the drama that happens around him regarding his brother and his agents and always talking about leaving the club, I just think that United fans don't like to sympathize with him, which is totally understandable from the fans' point of view as well. But I think he's a tremendous football player. I think he's one of the best technical football players that I've ever seen. He's really technically gifted, but um, he could be doing more with his talent, be it here or somewhere else.
Yeah, and it's always good to see a player like Pogba flourish at a different club in a different scenario. Yeah, so you mentioned that the fans don't want to sympathize with him, and somehow, in some instances, I remember that even if other players have been playing bad, something that Pogba does is always highlighted and amplified later during the game. And you can see this happening, especially in the recent years, not with Pogba more, but with two players. One who is your captain, Harry Maguire, and one with Fred. Now, do you think that this particular trend of scapegoating them and amplifying a few bad mistakes here and there and making it larger than it seems uh, a bad thing for a fan base to do, or is it justified? Like Harry Maguire last season, I remember that at a point of time he was one of the better defenders in the league, but only a few mistakes got so amplified that people just decided that he's not good. And same with Fred. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Fred has been basically he has not been given the recognition that he deserves, in my personal opinion, since he came here or since he started performing well, which was like the second season, I think. The no, No, the Ole's first season was when Fred really flourished in the 1920 season. And Maguire, I think I think these guys are just easy targets, because uh, once the fan base decides that this player is bad, then no matter what happens, that player would always be bad. I'm sure it happens with Chelsea also. I
Oh,
don't
so
know.
many times.
Uh,
So many times.
Maybe Jorginho is one of the popular
Jorginho is there,
scapegoats,
Alonso
I
is
think.
there, Timo Werner is there, Kepa is there. Now, in the recent, I mean, in the recent few games, Saul is also there. I mean, I know he's not playing well, but the people react as if he is the soul and whole and soul reason that Chelsea apparently lost, and he is the only player playing on the pitch.
I think it happens with every fan base, even Arsenal, I guess. Xhaka is scapegoated a lot at times. Maybe even Aubameyang in recent times, but Aubameyang has been poor.
Very poor.
So,
Off the pitch also has been very poor. So
I can't really talk for Arsenal or Chelsea fans over here. But in
makes
terms of
sense.
United fans, I think Fred has been scapegoated a lot because you have to understand the type of player that he is. He is always actively trying to make things happen by himself. And he first of all, he hasn't been played in his preferred role at all. I
Right.
mean, he's the one who is starting the attacks. He's the defensive line playmaker that we have been crying out for a long time. And Fred is acting like that, and he is not that player at all. I think he flourishes with a defensive midfielder alongside him. Like at Brazil, he has Casemiro or Fabinho besides him, and he is a different beast when he plays for Brazil. And I'm sure a lot of United fans would agree with me on this. So, first of all, I don't think he under Ole, I don't think he was given the best of environments to play well. And I also think that actively tries to make things happen, and I mean, he misplaces a lot of. I mean, he does a lot of silly things, and he misplaces a lot of passes. But I think that's excusable. I, I, I'm not claiming that he's the best player in the world, but he's not as bad as he's made out to be at all. Not even close.
And you can't blame
I
him for
mean,
trying to make something happen out of a virtually impossible or uncertain situation.
yeah, and McTominay on the other hand, I mean, just besides him, McTominay doesn't try as much as Fred does, and he doesn't get the amount of criticism that Fred gets because you have to understand, like, if a player doesn't have the ball, then he won't make mistakes, right? And
Right.
McTominay
Right.
doesn't actively try to get into
Get
position
in the
and
ball.
be the one who is starting the attacks, who's making the progressive forward passes, who's making the long switches. He's just he's more, he's a more safe type of a midfielder than Fred. And Fred is trying to make things happen. And obviously, you are going to misplace a few passes. I mean, everyone isn't Tony Cruz or Ozil.
Yeah.
So
Right.
sometimes these things get blown out of proportion. In Fred's case, I think that is true. In Maguire's case, first of all, Maguire's price tag doesn't help him at all.
Right.
He has always been overpriced. Even though he's not a bad, even though he's not, uh, even though he's not overrated in my opinion, but he has always been overpriced. There is a lot of
Right.
difference in those terms. And I think Maguire has been really poor this season, so I can't really defend him much. But yeah, he is also made out to be a scapegoat at times. He's not as bad as everyone makes him out to be. I do think he's a good captain, to be honest. Although, seeing the situation right now that he has, I think he has too much pressure on himself. So maybe we should have someone else captaining the side
Do you think
in the
Ragnick
near
will give
future.
Ronaldo the captain's armband, or will he give it to Bruno?
I think if Maguire has played under him as a captain, then Maguire will stay the captain.
Okay.
I don't really think there is a reason to change it, but as long as Maguire can deal with the pressure fine and you know be, get back to his best while being the captain, then I don't have any problem with it. I just think there is a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, and he could do with just focusing on his form and focusing on his football and getting back to his best form. Because last season, I genuinely believe he was one of the best defenders in the league.
Exactly.
maybe
Yep.
top two, top three. This season he has been poor, but that is also down to the system. I mean, Maguire can't do much if he doesn't have much cover from the front or from the back.
Right. And in many
And
situations, he ends up being the last man before the opposition attacker goes through on goal. So if he commits a silly foul or a silly challenge like the one he did, I don't remember, but he got a second yellow that led him to be banned. Was it against Watford, if I'm not wrong?
yeah, Watford.
Yeah, so that was a bit of indecisiveness, but people don't see that he was put into that position because of a poor back pass or something from one of his uh, central defenders. So I mean, he's put in a situation, and because of that, he misplaces something, and that is why he becomes the scapegoat, which is usually not. I mean, which is usually how it happens, and it should not be, right?
Yeah, it happens a lot, but I think just in general, his form has been poor this season.
Right,
But yeah, he. I mean, everyone has been poor this season. If I'm being honest, we can just pinpoint that Maguire and Fred is the reason that we have been bad. Everyone has been bad.
right. And I
I
think
mean, I
everyone
think
being bad has led to, along with the mistakes that Ole did, led to him being sacked, right?
so. If I can understand that if one or two players are bad, but if a whole team is bad, then it's down to the manager because he's not having the right tactics that is allowing the team to play well. So if we don't have a if Maguire doesn't have a good structure in front of him, he can't do much alone.
Right,
Every center back needs some protection. It's a team game, right?
right.
So I think Maguire and Fred are scapegoated from the team, but I think the whole team has been poor. I mean, Shaw has been bad this season. I'm not particularly impressed by Wan Bissaka either.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean,
Bruno has also hit a small dip in form. I think that's also down to the arrival of Ronaldo. Now he's just trying to pass it to Ronaldo at all times, and that
pass
leading
it
to
to
him
Ronaldo and
misplacing
hope
a
for the
lot of
best.
crosses. Yeah, basically. I don't know why it happens. I
Yeah,
just
and even the ball at Ronaldo's feet is not the same as it was, let's say, 3 or 4 years ago. Now he's easily, easily what you say, he's easily being able to. Uh, I mean, defenders don't have as much of a hard time defending against Ronaldo as it was a few years ago. I mean, we can see that, and then that is why he takes shots out of frustration, out of anger, and they go to the sky or they hit someone, they hit the first man, second man, whatever, and nothing happens out of it. So
basically what happens is that I think Leonardo Bonucci made a good point regarding this. He said that when Ronaldo is in the team, everyone in the team feels like if Ronaldo is there, then he will bail us out, he will score the goals, and he will do all the job. So I think Ronaldo invites that pressure on himself because I think that's the type of player he is. That's the
right,
type of personality he is. But as he's getting older, he can't do everything alone. So
right.
we need to. I mean, any manager would face the problem of accommodating Ronaldo, in my opinion. But he needs to be part of a system rather than just being the star player and
Yeah, being the focal
everything
point or
going
star
through
player,
him.
or right. Right. So then, if we we spoke about the performance of United in the PL, now if we just shift our attention to another competition, which is the UEFA Champions League. Now you saw whatever fiasco happened with the draw and everything. You originally had PSG that seemed to be choreographed for some reason because of some software glitch and all of that, and now finally you're landed with a team that is managed by Diego Simeone, which is Atletico Madrid. Now, talking about Atletico Madrid, they have a defensive philosophy that Simeone has imbibed in the entire squad for years, coupled with good attacking options in the form of Joao Felix, Antoine Griezmann, and Luis Suarez. But you have a player who hates the very existence of Atletico Madrid, as he has shown time and time again, not only for Madrid but for Juventus as well. How do you see this tie going through?
It depends a lot on what we do in the next month under Ragnick. Depends on if we are better as a team, if we develop more as a team, if we are more married to his ideas, if we are more focused on how he wants us to play, then I think we have a solid chance of going through, solid chance of winning the tie. Because I think I haven't really seen much of them, but from what I've seen, I don't think they have been that impressive this season. They haven't hit the forms that they hit last season when they won the league.
Right, right,
So I think they are there for the taking. Even
right.
in their group stage, they barely got out
They
of the
barely
group.
scraped through. They needed help from other teams to
Yeah,
qualify.
and Liverpool was just too good in the group, so
Yeah,
they basically dominated the group, and
right,
other
right.
teams were left behind. But I think they barely scraped through the group. I don't think they have been as impressive as they were last season. So I think they're there for the taking, but it needs a massive improvement from us as well in terms of tactical style of play to
Right,
be
right.
able to win with a chance. And the outbreak really has put a wrench in the process.
Exactly. You've not had enough time to set the ideas, and there might be a situation where you will have a fixture pile up at a point of time. And I think the your run into the UCL is coupled with, I think, matches against Tottenham and Man City, if I'm not wrong. You have a very difficult tenure between the two UCL matches also. So if that is coupled with some of these fixtures that might get postponed, it'll be even more problematic for you.
Yeah, we'll have to wait it out and see what happens because both is certain. And I don't think even the Premier League is certain of what is happening in
Exactly.
the
I mean,
league at this point of
today
time.
there was a match between Chelsea and Wolves, which Chelsea specifically requested for postponement because they had seven players who had got COVID, and it was rejected, and the match went through. So you never know. One point I wanted to ask you about Atletico is that they defend at times with six at the back, which is very like it's as good as parking the bus, which people call Simeone's tactics. But it does seem to be like parking the bus. I mean, even with a 0-0 scoreline, he defends with six at the back. How do you see your side breaking through? Do you think you have the adequate uh, adequate creativity behind breaking the back six, or do you think you'll have to rely more on counter attacking and set piece plays?
I think we have the creative spark in the team that can theoretically break a low block. I think Ronaldo would help in that a lot. He's good against low blocks. His movement is one of the best in the world. So that is always a constant worry for the defenders. And as you said, he really hates Atletico. So he turns into a different beast against them. So, he has been really good in the Champions League this season. Even under Ole, he was performing his skin out at all times. So, I do think we have the creativity to break it down. I think having Ronaldo is a massive boost. He's good against slow blocks. His movement is good. His goal scoring is tremendous, as we all know. But in terms of counterattacks and set pieces, I think Atletico are the better team over here. Um, we aren't we aren't really good at set pieces, and that's being me very generous about it. We are just poor at it, be it attacking or defending. And uh, I believe we'll have more of the ball when we play Atletico, so I don't think we would have much opportunities at counter-attacking with. But I do think that Atletico defend. Atletico is the best team in the world at defending counter-attacks.
Right.
You must have seen that there was a viral video of like 8 or 9 Atletico players running back and defending
Yep.
the
Yep.
counter-attack. So I think in terms of defending transitions and just in defensive shape, they are one of the best teams in the world. It would be tough, but as I said, it depends on how much development we have in terms of tactical style of play in the next month. to really assess if we do have a chance or not.
Right, right. So given given the scenario that you're in, I'll put in this question. It's not really a question, but just your perspective. Like, so a club sacked their manager, who is a legend as a player, in the middle of last season. In the middle of this season, they hired a German manager, and due to face Atletico Madrid in the round of 16. Now, this storyline is very much familiar to what happened last season with Chelsea. So my only question to you is, one, do you believe in these kind of optimistic scenarios? And two, do you think that the squad that Chelsea had versus the squad that United have, it's comparable on terms to at least theoretically on paper discuss a similar storyline?
I just think that it's a mere coincidence, to be very honest. I don't really believe it would happen again. I mean, Chelsea had a really good squad last season, and it was used fully by Tuchel. I mean, Giroud played, Werner played, everyone played, and
Right,
there was a lot of depth in the squad. I don't think we have that level of depth, and I also don't think we have the different types of profiles to adjust to the fixture condition. But if you look at our midfield, it's just very one-dimensional. It's just Fred and McTominay. There
right,
are not a lot of combinations that provide balance. Whereas at Chelsea, you had a Kante, Jorginho, Kovacic, Kante, which everyone worked really well with each other. Um, there are, I mean, on paper there are a lot of similarities, but I just don't think it would happen again. It also depends on the strength of other teams. I mean,
right,
last
right, right.
season Liverpool went out really early in the Champions League, which was a bit of a shock.
Yep.
Um, there were a lot of teams that got eliminated really early last year,
Right,
if I'm
right,
not
right.
wrong. And Juventus went out early, Chelsea went out early. Uh,
Chelsea didn't go out early.
sorry, Liverpool went out early. I'm sorry.
No worries.
And Manchester City, I mean, it really looked like Manchester City were going to win the thing, right? But
Right,
in the final, uh, Chelsea really took the game to them, and I think Chelsea deserved to win the final. I just watched one half, as I said before. But
right,
from what I saw, I think Chelsea were the better team in the final. But I just think that there are a lot of scenarios last season which really helped Tuchel because
right, right.
his style of play really suited the squad. I
Yeah,
don't
and we
think
were also lucky with the draws as well. I mean, we got Porto. We had an Atletico Madrid side which was in one of their weakest form in the season.
I
Then
think
we had
Atletico
Porto.
also had like uh, they were also mad with COVID also, right?
Right, right, right.
If
And
I'm not
and I
wrong. At
think
the same time,
they had a poor run of fixtures prior to the Chelsea match. So although it was nerve-wracking for us and they were still the table toppers at that time, we could still at least believe that there would be something out of that game for us. And it did happen, and as you know, the rest is history that we ended up winning the competition. So yeah, so for now I think you've given me the level-headed pragmatic answer, which is you're not believing in anything until something substantial happens in the next few months for for Ragnick and his Manchester United squad. Now I mentioned at the start of the episode that you have a website called Devil's DNA. I just want something off the top of what made you start your own website and how was the process, and I think it turned a year old this year, right?
in August,
In
it was.
August. Yeah. So how has that journey been? Just a quick, if you could summarize that. What made you start and how has the journey been? And who are the people
Uh,
behind it?
it's the three of us that started. Um, I mean, the main leader that we have, Varun, his name is Varun. So he approached me and he said that he has an idea of having a United centric website which offers, I mean, we focus a lot on data driven analysis and data visualization. Uh, we are very huge fans of statistical analysis, so we use that a lot in our articles and in our tweets and everything. So He said that there are not a lot of websites that offer this kind of information, so uh, we could start some seeing our knowledge. We could start one seeing the knowledge that we have. So I really liked the idea, and we just went through it. Then we got Pratyush, who is the third one, on board
Right,
a
right.
bit later, and yeah, that's how we started it, and it's been a really good journey. Actually, I've learned a lot uh, in terms of, in terms of even coding and finding the
Right.
data and just cleaning and doing the creating the visualizations. My skill set has improved a lot in that field as well, also as my writing skills. So yeah, it's been a great journey. We turned 1 year old in August this year, and we are planning a lot of big things. So just stay tuned and give us a follow if you like.
Of course, and all the socials, all the links to not only Rishikesh's individual socials and the Devil's DNA, but also of his fellow partners would also be given in the description. Right, so with that, we have reached the conclusion of this episode. Thank you, Rishikesh, so much for taking the time out and joining me in this episode. I'm not in the best of moods because I've just seen a hapless Chelsea draw against Wolves, but talking to you
But
has
it's,
definitely made me
as you
feel a bit
said that,
better.
yeah, it was mad with COVID cases. It should have been postponed. So I think that was a good result considering all things.
Exactly, it was. But then again, our starting 11 was not weak. It was still a good starting 11. But yeah, I mean, just Wolves were just too good. And I think under Bruno Lage, they have substantially transitioned into a good defensive side as well. But anyways, we'll keep that. We'll discuss other managers and other teams for a different episode. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for contributing your insights to this, and I hope that we will see you on future episodes very very soon.
Thank you for having me, and I hope I would be even invited again in the future episodes as well.
Of
I
course,
would be honored to join again.
you will definitely be invited. I hope that in particular episode we might even get all three of you on on a single episode, and we'll have a good chat. Right. So with that, we've reached the conclusion of this episode. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you all in the next episode. Goodbye from wherever you are listening. Thank you.